Welcome to the Redeemer Podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and today we are going to be talking about Redeemer Psychology Program. I'm joined by fourth year student Megan, and we have a great conversation about what it's like being a psych student at Redeemer. If it is your first time here, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out some of our other episodes that explore various aspects of Redeemer, Christian education, and so much more. Thank you for making us part of your day. And with that, here we go. All right, this is an episode I've been waiting to do for a long time. I love talking about Redeemer Psych Program. It's a larger program at Redeemer, and who better to talk about psych with than Megan? Megan, welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
Yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. There's lots of schoolwork to do, but I think it's like 13 degrees here, which is weird for February, so I'm
Okay.
enjoying that.
Okay, that's a great day to experience in February. No complaints there.
Nope.
So, Megan, we'll dive right into it. Could you maybe just talk a little bit? How did you come to Redeemer, and what made you want to choose psychology as your discipline of study?
Yeah, so a little bit of, I guess, background. I was homeschooled and I also grew up Christian in a Christian family. So some of the reasons that I chose Redeemer are actually a little bit interesting. So number one, I wanted to go to a Christian school. I knew that. And I also wanted to live a little bit closer to home. So I live like 3 hours away, but like still far enough that I'm going off to university. But another reason is that being homeschooled, I didn't actually have like a diploma or anything from high school. And so I kind of did it like the sneaky way of I went to another school called Liberty and I took like individual courses. And then what I did was I transferred over into the psych program, already knowing like I'm going to come here. So then that was kind of a way to actually get into university because I didn't know how else to do it. But yeah, the main reason was I had come here for like different conferences, one of them being OCHEC.
Yep.
And I don't know, there's something about walking around the campus, you just feel the community, which is something that you'll hear from so many people, is the community is so amazing here. And even like not as a student, as a 14-year-old girl, I was like, yeah, this is where I want to go. So that's
That's
kind of
really
why.
that's great. And why specifically psychology? What interests you in that field of study?
I love people a lot.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There was a lady in my life who, like, when I was deciding what to do, where to go, I was kind of struggling with, well, God hasn't told me what I should do, and I just want to do what God wants. And there was a lady who said, again, as long as you are serving God and you want to know and you want to follow him with all your heart, he's going to let you just take a step in whatever direction and he's going to honor you in that. And so I was like, okay, this is something that I think I'm going to just try because I love people and I love studying the mind. And so I did, and he has definitely been faithful in that. So,
Wow, very cool. Thank you for sharing. And
yeah.
can maybe explore a little bit because would you be considered your third year at Redeemer now?
Yeah. So I did my first year at Liberty and then I kind of transferred over. So I technically would be in my third year, but I am fourth year. So,
Okay, awesome. And what has
yeah.
that journey been like for you from your first year at Redeemer to where you are now?
Um, so my first year at Redeemer was my first time around a lot of people my own age because again, I was homeschooled. I did lots of things as a homeschooler, but it was the first time like being in a school setting since kindergarten really. So it was definitely interesting. I'm an extrovert. I love, love, love people. So
Hmm.
I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing ever. Like people all the time, they can never leave. So I love that a lot. My first year, really the focus was on my dorm. My dorm and we were all very close, all eight of us. So that was really cool. Like even day one, we moved in, and eight of us just sat down and we were talking for hours, like
Hmm.
super deep conversations about God. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. So first year at Redeemer was really focused on that. Sorry if I'm losing my voice.
Oh, no.
And then second year, I was an RA, so last year. That was a very different experience, but also really cool to be able to just lead a bunch of first years and kind of show them all the cool things that I had learned. And one of the girls was also in the psych program, so just being able to help her through that,
Nice.
and also being able to connect with other people from my year as well. in a different way. So that was really cool. And then this year has been a lot different. I'm in second parking lot in the Luther Core department, so I've lived on campus every single year, and it's very different not living in a townhouse. I personally love just sitting on the porch. Last year, my dorm was known for just sitting on the porch, and everyone would talk to us. So it's been a little bit lonelier, I would say. I don't really feel as connected, and I don't know if that's simply from living here or just the fact that I have so much schoolwork, and I don't really know, but it's still good. I would definitely say that this year is more focused on building the friendships and the connections that I already have,
Hmm.
including in the psych program too, because yeah, we have smaller class sizes and it's really cool. Like most of my class sizes are 7 to 12 people, so you get to really know the people in your program.
Well, and that's a great transition. Could you maybe talk a little bit more of what has that community experience been like in the psychology program? From meeting people in your first year to where you are now. What kind of discussions do you have in the classroom, outside the classroom?
Yeah. I think it was a little bit different just because I skipped that whole first year, but I am kind of okay with that because it was cool to, I mean, I came in and you could already see that people were super close in the
Hmm.
program because the thing with psychology is, um, well, it's very relational, I would say, major. So, for
Definitely.
example, one of my classes currently is called Theories of Methods in Counseling, and 45 minutes of our 3 hour lecture every single week is kind of doing a mock therapy session. And so
Mm.
you really get to know the people that you're working with. And because, at least in my year, we don't have I don't actually know how many people are in my program currently, but it doesn't seem like too many. You basically have every single class with them, and the topics that you're going into and the things that you're working through are very close to people because you're studying behavior and the mind and relationships. And so there's a lot of I guess deep topics and touchy subjects that we get to dive into, and so you really get to learn a lot about other people and you really just feel connected in that small way. So yeah.
No, that sounds like a great experience. Thanks for that little window into the program. And
Yeah.
what do you mentioned you're in your fourth year, so you're graduating this year. Do you mind me asking, what are you looking to do in the future with your psych degree?
Okay, so this is probably a little bit longer of an answer, but something I'm kind of passionate about.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I thought maybe the more known route, which is to become a therapist and a counselor, and that's still potentially an option. I'm not really sure, but something that I do want to focus on, whether that happens soon or like, I don't know, in my 50s or something, is to start a youth guidance program.
Hmm.
So, what I want to do is to be able to work with marginalized youth from broken homes, and to be able to work with them through kind of a camp program. So it would kind of look like a 6 week to a year program. I'm not sure. Yeah, just working with youth and living with them in like camp like settings. So living with them in cabins and doing camp activities, but then also incorporating counseling and physical therapy in there. So being able to bring them mental and physical healing. And then also just life training skills. So taking them to like the local store to be able to shop or do their laundry and stuff like that. So yeah, just being able to bring these kids connection with people who are from similar situations as them, healing, training that they need, and then help them to be able to work back into the society that they came from. So that's kind of a big vision. And what I'm kind
Yeah.
of doing right now after I graduate in a couple of weeks is just going into different countries and different families and living with different missionaries and kind of seeing what I can learn to get the next steps. So,
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing, and Lord bless you as you prepare for the future and life post Redeemer. And
Thank you.
maybe just as you reflect on the program, what have been some of your favorite parts of the program? I know you mentioned the community aspect of it, but are there specific courses that were maybe your favorite?
Yeah. So I had a couple of favorites. Honestly, most of my favorite classes were with profs that were just guests, which was kind of cool. So during my time, I didn't actually have a lot of the main professors at Redeemer, which was kind of interesting. But
Hmm.
I did get to experience a lot of the people that they brought in, and everyone I've had has been super amazing. That being said, I took social psychology. That was really interesting. Definitely eye-opening to how society thinks, and yeah, that was really interesting. Definitely recommend that one. Also, cognitive psychology. That one was very intricate. We learned lots of how just the power of the brain, and I don't need to necessarily go into it, but that one was really, really interesting as well. And then forensic psychology, learning about just like the law and how that incorporates. That was also one of my favorites. And then just something that I think is kind of funny. So being homeschooled, I'm used to teaching myself. And so my very first course that I took here in the very like first class was statistics. And
Oh.
so I was reading the textbook because that's what I'm used to doing. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is really hard stuff. And so like I spent hours on it and I was like, okay, I understand. And then I went to class and then she like Professor Good just told me everything. And I was like, oh, so that's how school works. You just listen and you get to know. So that was kind of funny. Don't be afraid of stats, okay? Stats is actually not that bad. Dr. Good does a really good job. So
Oh, that's
anyone's
good to
afraid of
hear.
that, it's okay.
That's good to hear. And on that note, are you doing you're gonna have to maybe explain to me a little bit here. I know some psych students do a senior thesis project. That's a pretty big deal. Do you do
Yep.
that, or are some of your peers doing that?
Yeah, so I'm in the thesis program right now with Dr. Good as well, and she's super
Oh,
amazing in that. We just actually launched our survey for our study, which is super exciting. So I think in about 2 weeks at the beginning of April, we're going to be taking all of the data and analyzing it and then creating, yeah, our big thesis paper. It's currently 20 pages long and it's probably going to be
wow.
around 40. And I know that, okay, coming in, I was like, I can't do this. 40 pages is ridiculous. But again, that's something like don't worry about it. If that's something that's stressing you out too, I would not worry. It's really not that difficult. And if it's something you're passionate about, it just comes naturally. And I know 40 pages or even 20 pages sounds like a lot, but I could write more. So if that's something that everyone's afraid about, it's okay. Like it's just a step-by-step process and you'll be able to do it and it'll be worth it.
Very cool. And for anyone listening, that's not in your first year of a psych program. That's a
No,
fourth
fourth
year.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just I don't want to scare people off of like, oh, I go to Redeemer after do this my first year. No, you
No.
build up to
And you
that,
don't have
right?
to. You don't have to do it. It's definitely an
Yeah,
option. And so,
totally. Yeah. Do you mind me
mhm.
asking what's your thesis on?
Yeah, I can't say too much in case
Okay.
someone is
Secret.
watching, but
Okay, totally.
um, uh,
Maybe if you
yeah,
could
I
just
can't
talk about
really explain,
no,
but
totally. Could you maybe just talk about how you go about deciding how to like what your thesis is
yeah.
going to be about?
Sure. So we got an email during the summertime. So if you're a thesis student, you usually know that you're going to be in your thesis program, and so there's a little bit of summer just thinking and emails that you get from Dr. Good, kind of preparing you and just getting you to think about topics that you're interested in. And really, you can study pretty much anything. We were kind of looking at the realm of people and personality. Um, yeah, I know like groups in the past, they've done studies on AI, which
Hmm.
has been interesting, or art, religion. Like, really, you can incorporate anything. The only setback would be we have an ethics board, which is good because it makes us follow guidelines and protect individuals. But as long as it passes the ethics board approval, then you can pretty much study whatever you want. And then it's honestly, you just every single week we have like about 3 hours, I think, where we go to class, and it's very flexible in your fourth year. But we'll just kind of sit down as a group or as an individual. I work with a partner in my thesis, and we just talk to Dr. Good, and we'll kind of work through things, be like, okay, I'm interested in this. And she'll be like, okay, this might be a way that you could study that. And you kind of just adapt it as you go. The psych program is actually the only thesis program that is 2 semesters, which gives you 8 months to, kind of work through everything really well, which is nice. So the first semester, you're solely focused on just creating your topic. So it's not something that you're like, oh, okay, this week I have to choose. it's a 4-month process where you figure all the details out, and it's really not overwhelming. Like it seems like it would be, but you really break it down into piece by piece, and it's very doable. So I don't know if that helps, but
Cool. And no, definitely. No, thanks for that insight. And maybe if you could give a little insight into, that's the thesis project that's, at the end of a degree, but leading up to
yeah.
that, do psych students write a lot of papers? Is it a lot of multiple choice exams, like short answer exams? Like what kind of practical, classroom, evaluation do you go through?
Yeah, so the first year you will have only tests pretty much, maybe a paper here and there depending on what prof you have. And usually the tests are just multiple choice. Sometimes there's some short answer in there as well. But
Mhm.
then as you get up in years, I would say there's less tests. I think like only two of my classes have tests this year, and they're not psych
Oh.
classes. So a lot of, as you get up, it's a lot of presentations for sure and papers. I personally like presentations because again, you get to know these people so well, then it just kind of becomes like you're learning and you're just sharing what you know with your friends. So it's really cool.
Right.
Um, yeah, the presentations, um, they're very flexible, I would say, because a lot of it even like will lead seminars now, which again sounds terrifying, but it's not. It's just you come up with a bunch of you read and you learn and you come up with questions and then you just talk about it, and then
Yeah.
you get to learn from what other people have researched as well. So it's really interesting. What were the other questions you said? Tests and kind
Just
of
yeah,
the content.
you did a great job answering it. Just
Okay.
kind of what can psych students expect. So you mentioned first year it's a lot of tests, but as you get later on, it's a lot
Mhm.
more papers and presentations. You'd say.
Yeah. And
Right.
even then, like the papers, there aren't too many. It's usually one kind of large-ish paper per course. Large being like 4 to maybe 8 page papers. 8 is very rare. I've barely written any. And a lot of it is just trying to figure out how to take all this information and just really simplify it. Um, that's mostly what it is. Also, as a psych student, there's like a couple of core classes that you'll have to take. One of those is statistics. Don't worry.
Yep.
Another one is research methods, which is actually super fun. I think that's a second year class, and it's kind of like a mini thesis where you completely come up with the whole experiment, and then you do the experiment and you write a paper on it with a group. That one I had a lot of fun. One of my classes, I literally like my class was to run up and down stairs for 10 minutes and like for an experiment, which
Wow.
sounds kind of weird, but it was really fun. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was really fun. And then it really helps, especially if you're going to be a thesis student. All of that
Mhm.
information helps with one, you now know how to do your thesis in a little bit of a way, so you kind of have like a background and a foundation. But also, I found that once I took those classes, being able to like actually read journal articles and stuff, which everyone has to do, you actually understand it, which I guess makes sense. But I don't know, you really understand everything that you're reading, and it helps not necessarily just for schoolwork, but in life in general. So like even when I'll be talking to family and they'll like ask a question or they want to know something, I'll be like, oh, let me just research that, and I can do it relatively easy and for my own personal learning as well. So yeah.
Wow, those sound like great skills to develop in all facets of life. That's fantastic. Um, do you have? I know we're coming to the end of our time, but do you have any stories or of a specific project or class that you could share with our listeners? I know it's a
Um,
tough question.
I don't know. Like I don't really I know. I wouldn't necessarily say like specific stories. One of my favorite classes, I think, has been psychoanalytic psychology, with Professor Stevenson. I don't know, something about that class. There were how many? I think there were 10 of us, sometimes 7 of us. It was um a very personal class. We didn't have tests in it. We had basically just discussions, and I learned so much from that. I think a lot of people were impacted by it because even now in our classes, everyone will be like, "Oh, do you remember like in psychoanalytic psych?" Um I would say not necessarily like a specific story, but just that class in general, it really showed me what psychology is for And um, yeah, it just made my major seem real, I guess, and not just schoolwork, but like this is real. We're helping people for real. We like, get to understand how to help people the best way possible. And yeah, that was just a really impactful course. So,
Definitely. No, thank you for sharing. And one final question I have for you here is what advice would you have for students considering Redeemer's Psych program?
um, I would just say take all the courses that you can because they're all fantastic. I've pretty much taken every course. Do your readings. I know that there's going to be a lot, but it's just so worth it. And you're paying to be here, so just learn as much as you can. Um, don't be afraid to open up to people because, especially in the psych program, that's just something that's going to happen naturally. And if you don't go against that, it'll just be so fruitful. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. And also, don't forget to also have a life and go enjoy the place that you're in. Redeemer is an awesome place. It has an awesome community, as everyone will tell you. So don't don't forget about that. Definitely cling on to that. Learn as much as you can. Learn with other people, but also, yeah, enjoy the community. Take care of yourself, and prioritize your relationship with God as well.
Well said. Megan, thank you so much for joining the Redeemer podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
And if you're there listening or watching this and you want more information about our psych program or any program at Redeemer, feel free to email us at admissions@redeemer.ca. This has been another episode of the Redeemer podcast. God bless, and we will see you in the next episode.